Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the big news. The topic for today's discussion, Hindi, unifying language or imposition, the constitutional debate. Before we understand what is this issue all about, we have two important announcements. First, we have a video which we have uploaded on our YouTube channel called as the mnemonics and the mind maps. Please look into it. We will also have another video that will be uploaded today which is in reference to places in news. Kindly watch this video as well. Now let's get started and look into the big news topic. When we speak about India, India is a land of diversity. India has myriad cultures, languages, religions, castes, so on and so forth. One of the important cultural aspect with respect to India happens to be the language, and language is a very emotive issue when it comes to India. In this particular backdrop, when we look into the recent issue at the 37th meeting of the Parliamentary Official Language Committee in New Delhi, Union Home Minister Amit Shah said Hindi should be accepted as an alternative to English and not to local languages. This has stirred controversy. A number of political parties and people have been opposing this so-called imposition by the central government. Now the question is, what is this committee all about? When we speak about the constitution, when we speak about the statutory laws, we have something called as the Committee on Official Language. When we look into the constitution, we have Article 344 which speaks about Commission and Committee of Parliament on Official Language. What is this commission and committee? When we look into the constitution, it was drafted, it came into implementation. After it came into implementation, this article clearly says that the president by order after 5 years and after 10 years may constitute a commission which shall consist of a chairman and such other members representing different languages specified in the age schedule. So there will be a commission, and what is the work of this commission? The commission will basically look at multiple objectives as given by the president in his order. The progressive use of the Hindi language for the official purposes of the union, restrictions on the use of English language for all or any of the official purposes of the union, the language to be used for all or any of the purposes mentioned in Article 348, the form of numerals to be used for any one or more specified purposes of the union, and basically any other matter referred to the commission by the president with respect to the official languages of the union. So the commission will look into how to promote Hindi as the language, how to basically minimize the use of English, and all those that are given by the president when it comes to the Hindi as a promoting language. This is one part, and we will also have a committee, and this particular committee will consist of 30 members, of whom 20 will be from the Lok Sabha, another 10 will be from the Rajya Sabha, and what will they do? They basically will review the progress made in the use of Hindi for the official purpose of the union. So we will have the commission, we will also have the committee, and do note we also have the Official Languages Act of 1963. According to this Official Languages Act of 1963, there is one of the committees formed under Section 4. What is this committee? This committee is called as the Committee on Official Language. The committee was set up back in the year 1976 under Section 4 of this Act, and the committee comprises of 30 members of the parliament, 20 from the Lok Sabha, 10 from the Rajya Sabha, and basically they review the progress made in the use of Hindi for the official purpose of the union. So this is what we mean by committee. So what is the present context? We have the Union Home Minister who has suggested the committee that it is time to carry out a revision of the Hindi dictionary. He even mentioned that 70% of the Union Cabinet's agenda is now prepared in Hindi, and the Union Home Minister stressed the need for elementary knowledge of Hindi for students up to 9th class and more attention to Hindi teaching examinations. In this particular backdrop, we have number of political parties in India, opposition political parties, who say that this is an imposition and such an imposition has to stop, says the political parties. When we consider Congress, we have the former Chief Minister of Karnataka, Siddaramaiah. Siddaramaiah says history clearly suggests that any attempt to impose Hindi in other states have not gone well. We take pride in Kannada identity. We believe that Karnataka, as our poet laureate Kuvempu said, it is the daughter of Bharata. Then we have TMC. We respect Hindi, but we are opposing the imposition of Hindi. Then we also have DMK, who say that we don't oppose Hindi, we oppose Hindi imposition, says the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Stalin. They further say we want English as an alternative to Hindi. All non-Hindi states want English as an alternative to Hindi. They say they want Hindi as an alternative to English, which is not good for states like Tamil Nadu. We have a language that is much older than Hindi. Tamil language has a history that leads back to 3000 and more years. Hindi is a mixture of Sanskrit, Urdu and various other languages. This is not acceptable to us, says Tamil Nadu government. Now the question is, we are speaking about the debates. Even after 70 years, we are yet not able to stick to a particular point whether Hindi is a national language or not. Why is the central government promoting it? What has been the debates with respect to the Constituent Assembly is what we have to look at. When you look into the Constituent Assembly debates, what did the Constituent Assembly debate speak about? Some section of the people said that yes, Hindi should be promoted. Some section of the Constituent Assembly debates and people from the southern part of India said that Hindi should not be promoted as a national language. So according to Constituent Assembly debates, Hindi had influential backers in the assembly, including Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel and B.R. Ambedkar. What did B.R. Ambedkar say? According to Ambedkar, he says that there has to be one language which can unite the people and two languages are sure to divide the people, said Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Then we have Mahatma Gandhi ji, who went on to say, Rashtra Bhasha ke bina Rashtra gunga hai, which means a nation is dumb without a national language, said Mahatma Gandhi. However, there have been different viewpoints with respect to Mahatma Gandhi as well. On one side, they say that Mahatma Gandhi supported Hindi. On the other side, there are scholars who say that Gandhi kept changing this position. After 1942, Gandhi seemed to stress on the very fact of adoption of Hindi, which is nothing but a fusion of Hindi and Urdu and not Hindi. So there is mixed opinion with respect to Gandhi. However, both of them say what we require is a unifying language, and in the words of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he says one language can unite people, two languages are sure to divide people. So in order to make sure that this whole debate is ultimately concluded, what they adapted is called as the Munshi Iyengar formula that called for letting English as the official language for India along with Hindi for a period of 15 years, and the parliament having the power to extend the use of English further. To give further boost to it, what we have is two important articles in the Indian Constitution. What is it? We have Part 17, Official Language, Chapter 1, Language of the Union, where Article 343 speaks about official language of the Union. How was the Munshi Iyengar formula introduced into the Constitution? Let's look into the Bare Act. The official language of the Union shall be Hindi in Devanagari script. The formula of numerals to be used for the official purposes of the Union shall be the international form of Indian numerals. Clause 2 states, notwithstanding anything in Clause 1, for a period of 15 years from the commencement of this Constitution, the English language shall continue to be used for all the official purposes of the Union for which it was being used immediately before such commencement. Further, we have another important article, which is chapter 4 from the very same part 17, which speaks about special directives, which is article 351, which speaks about directive for the development of the Hindi language. On one side, it recognizes what is called as the official language under 343, and it further makes a mention of a special directive where it asks the central government to promote Hindi as a language throughout the country so that it becomes the lingua franca in the near future. Now the question is, what is the difference between the official and the national language? When we speak about the official language, what is an official language? An official language is a language that is used for the communication between the states. So whenever you speak about laws, whenever you speak about communication between one government with another, what you require is a language. So an official language is the language of communication between the central government and the state government, or it can be between the central government and another state government. So what is an official language? An official language is the language used by the center and state government to carry out its own businesses. Then we have what is called as the national language. What is a national language? It is the representative of the country. It basically promotes that all the people in that particular country may know that particular language. In other words, it is also a symbol of national unity. So in India, do we have a national language? The answer is a clear cut no. India does not have a national language, but yes, we do have the official languages, and some of the official languages are present in the 8th schedule. So remember, we do not have the national language, we only have the official language. To this particular question, Gujarat High Court back in the year 2010 has clearly clarified, normally in India, majority of the people have accepted Hindi as a national language, and many people speak Hindi and write in Devanagari script, but there is nothing on record to suggest that any provision has been made or order issued declaring Hindi as a national language of the country. So this clarification by the Gujarat High Court clearly points out that there is no language in India which is the national language, and Hindi is not the national language of the country. Now, as part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section that at the time of independence, there were about 14 scheduled languages. How many scheduled languages are present today? Please put them on the comment section. Now, the question is, should Hindi be promoted as the national language in India? Let's look at arguments which say yes. Let's also look at arguments which say no. When you look at arguments that says yes, Hindi should be promoted and Hindi should be the national language in India, what are the arguments? India is a country of different languages. Every language has its own importance, but it is very important that we have a common language which itself becomes the identity of the country. When we speak about the statistics, there are large number of people who speak India. The majority, which is more than 50%, know Hindi. They are able to understand Hindi. They are able to even speak Hindi as well. So because there are people who can understand and speak, we require one language which acts as an identity for the country. This identity of the country can be used at the international level as well. So what we require is one single language, and because the majority are able to understand, they are even able to speak, what we can do is promote Hindi as the language. So this language has to be Hindi because there are people who are capable of understanding it, speaking it. So this is a major pointer. And we also know for the fact that we were under the British colonialism. Why use this language as the means of communication? Why not have our own indigenous language? So on one side, we have to give identity to our country. So let's make use of Hindi. And the other side, why are we making use of a language which is colonial in principle? So to reimpose it, to substitute it, what we require is an indigenous language, and that indigenous language has to be Hindi, says some of the arguments with respect to how Hindi can be the national language in India. However, we cannot take this perspective completely. There are few arguments which also say that Hindi should not be the national language in India. Why? Let us look into the arguments. We have Shashi Tharoor in one of the debates clearly says that hypothetically, let's assume one day one of the southern Indian languages becomes a majority speaking language. So are we going to promote that language? Let's look at the statistics. Hindi is, yes, the majority speaking language. Then it is followed by Bengali as well. What if the number of Bengali speaking people increase? So are we going to promote Bengali? No. So this basically means India is a land of diversity. India is known for its cultural values. India is known for its ethos and values of supporting different diversity and culture. Since language is an emotion, since language is about people, since language is about roots of the culture, this should not erode the unity. So basically, we have to support every single language, and one language should not be superimposing every other language. This means it will erode the unity which has strengthened the country. So basically, we are saying that if Hindi is promoted, it will be at the cost of another language. So this should not be promoted is the first argument. The second argument is that we have India. India is also constituent of the states. Each state has its own local language as well. We know for the fact that federalism is part of the basic structure. When we speak about the states like Tamil Nadu, what we have is people speaking in Tamil. When we speak about the states like Karnataka, we have people who speak in Kannada. You consider the state of Kerala, you have people speaking in Malayalam. You consider the states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, you have people speaking in Telugu. So this means language is a very emotive issue. Federalism is part of the basic structure. They have decided that they'll have their own language as well. If Hindi is being imposed, this is against the federal structure. If it is going against the federal structure, it is further violating the basic structure doctrine as well. Since it is violating the basic structure doctrine, Hindi should not be imposed is another argument. Let me give you another international perspective as well. We know for the fact that we had Western Pakistan and we also had the Eastern Pakistan as well. The entire Western Pakistan and Eastern Pakistan together became Pakistan. But Western Pakistan did not accept Bengali as the language of the East Pakistan. They were not able to support this very culture as well. So what happened? There was fragmentation as well. The country was divided. Then we had the creation of Bangladesh. So there can be issues if culture is not respected is the international perspective. So if you look into census 2011, around 528 million people or about 44% of the population listed Hindi as their mother tongue, up from 30% of the population in 1961. It is not only the most common language in India, but also the fourth most spoken language in the world. So when you look into the statistics, it clearly says, yes, there are more people who understand it, but when you look at its presence in southern part of India, there are very less number of people who understand it as well. So reimposing the very thought of Hindi is not going to serve the country is the another argument. So basically, India is a land known for accommodating unique linguistic identities and cultures. Till now, we have had a delicate balance of accommodating all languages, and this has been accommodated in the constitution of the country as well. So pushing Hindi as a unifying language undermines the unity of the country and the constitution, which the Constituent Assembly debaters have beautifully crafted. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.